Welcome to the Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast with psychologist Dr. Doreen Downing. Listen in as Doreen interviews people who felt they didn't have a voice or who suffered extreme speaking anxiety. You'll hear stories about how they struggled to speak up, what they did to find their authentic voice, and the confidence they now feel to speak up and make an impact. If you want to get started right away to find your voice, download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com. And now, here is Doreen.
Hi, this is Dr. Doreen Downing, and I'm welcoming you to the Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast. Today, I'm excited to introduce you to somebody that I'm just meeting for the first time also, although I've been following her because she has had a journey to find her voice, and it's been more recent too. So today, it's Dori Eversmann. Hello, Dori.
Hi, I'm happy to be here. This is joyful.
Yeah, I feel it too. Well, I'm going to read the bio and that I created and some of what you gave me. Dori Eversmann is the owner of Resilient Relationships. Dori is a speaker, facilitator, and coach who specializes in communication skills and leadership presence. She works with leaders and managers to build cultures of healthy communication and high trust, the kind of environments where people actually want to stay and grow. Her career spans both business and nonprofit leadership, and through all of that experience, she discovered a powerful truth. Effective communication is not a nice to have, it is essential to success at work and in life. And what makes Dori's work especially meaningful is that it comes from lived experience. And for over 50 years, speaking up and being visible felt deeply unsafe for her, shaped by a family culture of silence and reinforced by painful experiences in school, which we'll be listening to today and hearing more about. Uh, Now, Dori speaks with presence, clarity, and this is the most important part for me and the podcast that I do, with heart. Dori speaks with presence, clarity, and heart. And she no longer freezes, goes blank, or feels overwhelmed by fear. And instead, she connects, makes eye connection, and speaks from a place of authenticity, and trust. Her journey is a powerful reminder that finding your voice is possible at any stage of life and that healing and leadership often grow side by side. I like that last line, that we can grow and heal at the same time.
Wow, yes. I love hearing that reflected back, like a summary of my journey.
Yeah.
Almost like I could feel it just resonating as I listen. So I'm so excited to share. Hopefully, this message will be hope for someone listening.
Yes, well, that's my intention, is to open this space
Mhm.
up so that my listeners get into the inside of you, not just,
Mm,
hello, here, let me share what I know how to do now. It's more like the journey. And
mhm.
so I often like to start with early childhood, and I know you mentioned something about that. So, and then what after, some of the stories you have to say about or tell us about anything that you feel contributed to you not feeling really fully confident as a little girl. What
Mhm.
happened? And then what was the journey? We'll go into that. And then, well, so what are you doing now today with your heart, as it turns out, right? Around
Yeah.
communication. So that's pretty much how I've designed this conversation. So let's start
Ah.
with early childhood, anything that you can reflect back to us, because that's what people
Mhm.
go, oh, yeah, that's true for me. That happened to me too. So just whatever you can do,
Yeah.
as raw as you can get.
Ah, yes. Oh, so many different threads I could pull from, but I'll start with just describing my small family. There were four of us, my mom, dad, and my sister, who is 7 years younger than me. So the dynamic and the beliefs about myself and about communication and whether I could speak up or not were set even before my sister came along.
Yeah, seven.
And my parents were both only children. So I have
Uh-huh.
no aunts, uncles, or cousins. And my grandparents were, one side was not involved in my life, and the other side was just a once a year visit. So I lived with a very small family of origin. And what was unique about ours, at least in my perspective, is that my dad was silent and shut down. He had been in Vietnam and had been shot there and repaired and sent back home to his new wife and new little baby. And he came back,
Oh,
according to my mom, different.
oh,
And then he just numbed out with alcohol. And he was an alcoholic for all of my upbringing.
wow.
So for him, his numbing out was silence and a heavy presence in our home. And my mom, who had a lot, both of them have passed away now. My mom, uh, she did a great job. She loved well. She functioned well. She over functioned to compensate for the heavy numbness that my dad was in the house. And so there was a bit of, or a lot of intensity for her. And she was going to, to raise these kids well to the best of her ability. And in doing so, she was controlling, and her fear was managed by me and then later my sister showing up exactly the way she wanted.
Uh-huh.
And the way she dealt with her fear, if I said something she didn't like in those early, early years, picture a 3, 4, 5-year-old,
I can.
she would break eye contact and
Uh,
not talk to me.
oh,
And it could go for days, I learned as a little kid.
uh-huh,
And so that fear of, oh, I need to observe very carefully and I need to adjust what I say and if I say anything to make sure that her face is pleasant.
uh-huh,
Because as soon as she went flat and pulled back, and what was another piece of it is there was never resolution. She never came back to talk to me about it. It's just time would go by and then she'd start looking at me again and she'd start talking to me again. So there was no communication around here's what didn't work and what I need. So what I did was silence and watch and
uh-huh.
no voice unless I know for sure by your facial expression that I'm safe to speak. And that stayed with me and controlled me into my 50s.
Yes. Oh, I really am appreciative of you spelling it out so clearly. I mean, I could see it. It's like a movie. I see the little girl and the moment that the mom does that thing, abandon her just so quickly, like a snap of a finger, and how that then trains you to have these tuning forks always out there to test. I'm um, I know that in the conversations I've had, that those kinds of experiences that kind of trained you to be silent, but also trained you to be very the listening, that you
Mhm.
learn to listen early so that there's eventually some kind of positive outcome, which we could talk about later. But I just wanted to realize, because I know that's part of my story as a psychologist, is the learning to listen to the environment so that you are safe.
Yes, that succinctly states how I functioned and lived. A lot of listening and very little speaking up. And it was so imprinted on me to do that. By the time I got to school as a 5 and 6-year-old, I was the quiet one. I
Uh,
was very quiet, very compliant, very just did pretty good grades wise, was the good kid, but the invisible kid.
Uh-huh.
And so another piece of it is that my mom wanted us to have a better life. And she saw that as succeeding in the education system.
Mhm.
And so for her, her insecurity around, is my daughter going to succeed? Let me make sure. Starting in fifth grade is the first I remember of it. She started doing my homework for me
Oh my.
because she needed me to excel.
Uh-huh.
And it was little things at first. And then by the time I got to junior high, she started writing my papers, English papers and history papers.
Uh-huh.
And that set me up for experiences that where I was called on to speak, but I
Mhm.
didn't have, I didn't produce the work.
Right.
My mom produced it. I one very vivid experience was because of my mom's paper, I won National History Day in my small town of Georgia and
Oh,
went to the state competition with my paper. And
wow.
then I needed to stand in front of judges and present.
Mhm.
I literally blacked out. I don't have memory. I have memory before and after,
Uh-huh.
feeling terrified and terrible, but I don't have memory in that room. I don't even know what came out of my mouth. It was sheer panic.
Mhm. Mhm.
And of course, I didn't win that, but it just continued. She wrote all my high school papers.
Oh
She
my
wrote my
gosh.
college entrance exam. And so, what that did for
Uh-huh.
me was this identity and this strategy of life is I cannot speak or write. And if I do with my original ideas, it will be embarrassing, humiliating, and it will make us, the family unit, look really bad.
Uh-huh.
And that, yeah, until my 50s, till my early 50s, silence.
Well, I've never heard a story like that. Never in all the years I've done my podcasting and people talk about their histories where a parent stepped in and really took over. And
Mhm.
because actually writing is also a way of finding your voice, right?
Yes.
Connecting with what you know or believe or what's true and express it. It's a form of expression. So you were double whammied.
Yes. And so my healing journey's in layers, which when we get to the more recent time period, I'll speak more to that. And what happened in college was because my mom had done my applications to get
Mhm.
into college and she got me into, in my opinion, at the time, my mom got me into college. I really shouldn't be here.
Oh, that's another.
So now what happens when now I'm called on in class to speak, or I land myself in a class that's more of a Socratic method professor,
Yes.
and I just freeze. I freeze, and I say something that would end up being uh, oddly communicated, and then the teacher and the students, I have memories of them laughing at me
Oh my. Uh-huh.
and the shame, the redness, the embarrassment, the sweat, the shame. I would try so hard not to speak in my college classes. But what's amazing is I made almost all B's. Like I wasn't an A student,
Uh-huh.
but even with all of that fear, and I did produce the papers, but my strategy was I would wait till the pressure was so high.
Ouch.
Usually I would stay up all night
Uh-huh.
because the pressure had to be really high to force me to actually write the paper and turn it in. And
Uh-huh.
I would never reread it. I would write it, and the humiliation would be so terrorizing in my brain that I
Uh,
would just like spit out the paper and turn it in. And I would make B's in that strategy with
yeah.
no edits. So I look back and I think that's actually pretty amazing. But in the moment, I felt like I was the stupidest person on that campus.
Ooh, what campus was it, by the way?
I went to Georgia Institute of Technology, so goes by Georgia Tech, which is an engineering school, and I was in the business program there. So that
Uh-huh.
was
What was
interesting.
your, well, maybe your mom's plan, but what was the plan in getting that kind of degree?
Oh, that's such a great question because that ties into adulthood part of my story. My mom wanted me to be an accountant. So when I went to college, she had looked through the course program and handwritten all 4 years of the classes I would take to become an accountant.
Hmm.
And that is so not me. But she knew that in her mind, that would make money for me and I would be able to support myself. So I went as an accountant. I ended up, and I can tell that story if you want, it might be too long. I went on and found out about 2 years into the accounting program, it was not a fit for me. And that was one of my biggest courageous moments with my mom was to call
Yeah.
her up and say, I'm dropping out of the accounting program. That
Oh,
was one of the biggest steps of me becoming an adult. And by that time, I was about almost 20
yeah.
to
I love
stand up
that
to
you
her.
called it your first courageous moment.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that it's so clear for you to mark it like that.
Yes, yes. And
And
so then, yes, do you,
well, I was just going to
yeah,
say
go
for
ahead.
our listeners that that phrase courageous moment I think is really important that people could
Mhm.
take that today. Like where, hey listeners, where in your life have you, when you look back like this, had a courageous moment? Because that's where some of your power already naturally was, and you just finally tapped it, however, whatever reason. And also the other kind of power, the kind of push that you talked about before you wrote your papers, like the what's inside of you, that internal I'm gonna do it kind of thing is also what I'm getting from you that probably shows up in your life later on about not necessarily leaving something to the last minute, but that drive.
Mm. Yes, yes, that drive. There is even then, there was something in me that knew
Yeah,
I really can.
yeah.
So I didn't completely give up even in the scary moments.
Oh,
Hmm.
beautiful. Well, before we go into the next phase, talking about well, what were some more of those courageous moments and the wake up moments? Um, my father, in fact, I just got back from a trip to Italy, and I went to where he landed in the army in Anzio, Italy. He was Italian, so they picked the soldiers who spoke Italian to do that first invasion. And he was alcohol. He came back and was also alcoholic. And then growing up with an alcoholic father, um, you're saying your father kind of numbed out and got silent and wasn't expressive. Um, what, I mean, obviously you didn't know him before, but there's something about you that I feel like comes from him that's positive.
Mm.
I wonder. I don't.
I wonder. To me, my dad was a roommate in our home,
Uh-huh.
but maybe in subtle ways that I haven't considered. He had leadership presence. He went to military school. His family was, I would say, quite non-relational. He was raised by nurses. He was sent off to boarding school at 13. His parents lived international. And so he wasn't parented after 13. He grew up in military boarding school and then went on to be a leader in the military and in Vietnam before he was shot. And then they discharged him. He was going to be career military.
Uh-huh.
So that
Uh-huh.
just
Ooh,
tailspinned his life. And
yeah.
but maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a sense I got. I don't,
Hmm.
sometimes well, speaking of listening and tuning in, I guess I tuned into something about him. And maybe it's just me projecting onto my father who had a heart in there somewhere, even though he was alcoholic. Good. Well, anything else about what you said so far that comes up that you think you want to fill in any of the gaps or stories?
I don't I don't think so. I think that pretty much covers my upbringing, just that strategy of silence, observe, and only speak if I'm sure that the facial expression of the person I'm talking to is happy. And so that got me through. If you're not looking at me happy, then I go and I scan and I look for someone that can give me that facial expression, and that's who I choose to
Uh-huh.
interact with. So,
Well, I think it's also a skill to be able to go to have the ability to be silent when you choose it,
mm,
and then be able to notice the person in front of you. I mean, I think that's a skill.
hmm I
And
think so too.
but instead of veering off, staying with. And I think that's partly what you've learned to do, knowing the process I know that you've done, is how to stay with somebody, even if they aren't with you, and stay with them in such a way
Mhm.
that they come around and are with you. You've paid attention to them in such a way that they change their ability to connect with you, right?
Yes, that is a skill that I have developed, particularly in recent years. Yes.
Great. Okay, well, but it stems from some of the other stuff that was.
hmm
I think that's people who listen to my podcasts always. I try to make those weave in what happened that was not so good, you might say, and how it
hmm
was already a way of empowering you to be more of who you can, like leadership presence. And wow. So the wake up call, or actually courageous moment you said was, "Hey mom, I'm not going to do accounting." What what well, I let me just pause because I need to take a break and we'll be right back and then we'll be talking about what the journey was, the other courageous moments, the breakthroughs, the what happened that she said, "This is not working. I want to be or have a different way of communicating, living." Be right back.
If you want to get started right away to find your voice, download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com.
Hi, we're back with Dori Eversmann, and already the eloquent conversation, I feel, Dori, that you've been able to articulate for us some ways in which silence, the one parent who was silent and one parent who was over controlling, it affected you in you kind of developed a pattern early on to stay silent and be afraid to express yourself. And that even went into college. And the first moment you said courageous moment was in college. What are some of those other courageous moments that you remember that you started to, ooh, let's break out of this um, well, I don't know what you might call it, this pattern that you had, the silent and scared to speak.
Well, I wish that my story was such that after that first courageous act, that there were many more soon after. But no, I had decades of silence yet
Oh,
in my
oh, oh,
story.
oh.
So I met someone and we're still married. We've been married 30 something, 33 maybe years now. Met him in college and started having kids right away. I was in grad school, and that was a nice, easy path for me. Find a partner that was very directive and very a personality that says, here's what we're going to do, and just follow along. And that was what felt very comfortable for me. And I began that life of motherhood and wife in my silent strategy. And then I gravitated toward a religious system that
Oh,
gave me direction and told me what to think and told me what to say. And I went deep into this rigid religious system for a few decades. And I kept my strategy: silence, observe, and only speak what I know you want to hear. And a couple decades of that, and my soul was dying. And in my 40s, I remember starting to write. I've been a journaler since middle school, and I
mhm.
would just write invisible, disposable, replaceable.
Yeah.
And and I would tell people I feel invisible, disposable, replaceable. I would tell my husband that, and they'd be like, "That's ridiculous. You're not." But I couldn't fix that. and
Yeah.
I felt it. And I got to the very depths of thinking that my life needed to end in my early 40s.
Uh,
And it's that silence
hmm.
that people couldn't penetrate and I couldn't get through that
Oh,
put me in that really dark place.
uh-huh.
And so in my 40s, thankfully, that's something in me that still fights, that
Yes.
still would,
Yes.
like rose up in college.
Uh-huh.
It rose up and I did take some brave action. Got some counseling help, got some process group help, did some, some other healing modalities, and I got through that crisis. I'm
Uh-huh.
very thankful for that season of life. But still, I was very pleasant to be around and very quiet and only speaking until in my I exited that rigid religious group in around 2018, and then someone invited me to well, well, let me first tell you what I did in the business world, because this is so interesting, because I kept that same strategy. In 2018, I left the religious world and all the volunteering and all the nonprofit leadership that I was doing there. And I was like, this isn't working for me. I'm going to reinvent my life over here in the business world, and maybe that will feel satisfying. But I took my strategy of silence, observing, and only speaking into that. But I created a company. With my husband's help, I did a bookkeeping and accounting services company. I built it up in 2018, started just bringing in more and more clients and hiring people, and I created something sellable that I sold in 2021,
Uh-huh.
all with the same strategy of silence.
Uh-huh.
And people would say, "Wow, you've done a thing that's amazing." I'd be like, "Ah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah."
Mm-hmm.
Because I would say, well, my husband did it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I would negate it, right? Like my mom got me in college.
Yes.
My
Pattern.
husband gave
Yeah.
me this company, and yes, I lead it and grew it, and then I sold it. Um, but here's where a major turning point is. It was COVID. So COVID happened, the shutdown happened, the world happened, and
Yes.
then this December of 2020, I've got this company, I've got 33 clients, I have multiple employees working for me. We're doing great. And I get COVID before the vaccinations and all the things. I mean, full COVID.
Mm.
I did not have to go to the hospital, but I was so sick, sicker than I'd ever been in my whole life. And it actually took me 6 months to feel back to normal again.
Uh-huh.
And that I turned 50,
Uh-huh.
COVID happened, and I said, this is not what I am on this earth to do, to
Oh.
lead an accounting services company. There
Uh-huh.
is something that I exist for, and this is not it. And I better go after it because I could die any moment. And
Uh-huh.
so that was when I decided I'm selling this company this year in 2021, and I'm going to move into what I can try to figure out. I don't know yet, but something where I'm to make a difference in the world. So that was a big turning point for me. And that leads into me finding my voice.
Yes. Well, those who are listening to Dory, I think you can hear the excitement and thrill. I just watched it. If you're watching, you go back and see how she lit up when she said, and then it was a moment where it was those breakthrough moments that people remember. And it felt like I felt it. I felt the determination you had to listen to your destiny and take steps towards it. And so, what are these steps that you've taken?
So the steps are first in 2020, I wanted to shift into coaching. I had done a year of master's work to become a counselor, and it was clear that that path did not feel in alignment to me. So in 2020, I chose to do training to be a coach, leadership and life coach, and I started meeting with clients in 2021, and that was really joyful and it felt very safe. So now I'm starting to use my listening skill, but
Yes.
also speak and adding value and finding that, wow, I do have something to offer. And I'm seeing how it's helping to set other people free when I share from my journey and myself and my what I've learned. And so that was 2021 was around that and coaching. And then this pivotal experience, many of your listeners may have heard of the landmark weekends and conferences. And I went to one of those, not it was similar to that, 3 day, 4 day immersive. And in that process, you there's this amazing ability to see how you show up and how other people receive you. And up until that experience, I thought by being silent and by listening and being very agreeable and pleasant, then why wouldn't everybody like me and
Uh-huh.
trust me?
Uh-huh.
And in that experiential weekend, I learned that my silence actually blocked trust.
Ah.
That people couldn't get to know me when I didn't communicate from my heart in a have the ability really to communicate who I really was
Uh-huh.
and then share on an equal basis, not just listen and listen and listen and wait for somebody to invite me to share, which a lot of talkers don't. And so a lot of my
Mhm.
relationships
Yes.
were one-sided.
Yes.
And so that happened in 2022. And I thought, oh, I need to do courageous action to offer myself, even when I'm not invited to, even when nobody asks me, which one-on-one, I could have great conversations often, but in groups, the dynamic, at least in groups I hang out with, there's talkers that talk. And if you don't jump in and offer, you could just leave without having spoken once. And
Yes.
that's how most of my life it was. So in 2022, I started practicing in safe groups, just how to be one of those people that would just offer something. That was one of my first steps. And then at the end of 2022, I had this recurring vivid dream of me on a stage with spotlights on me, and
Oh.
there are thousands of people in this like huge, I don't know, I don't know what it is. Is it a coliseum? Is it just a very large venue? It's thousands of people, this dream of me speaking and feeling joy and this connection with the audience speaking. And I had the dream so vividly, and I would wake up. I finally said, I don't know what, I don't plan to speak. I have no idea what I would speak on, but the dream won't go away, so I'll go learn how. I'll join Toastmasters.
Uh-huh.
And that's began, and that tumbled into someone inviting me to the National Speakers Association. And I was like, I'm not a speaker. And they're like, just come. And what a welcoming, encouraging group that has been for me and part of my healing. And then someone in that group recommended speaking circles to me. And
Mhm.
that was really interesting because Toastmasters gave me mechanical practice.
Yes.
And Toastmasters gave me practice to get up and speak to a bunch of people whose faces look like this.
Yes. Yeah, that you can't read them. Yeah.
And that was a
Uh,
fear I needed to overcome.
yes. Yes.
And
Uh-huh.
so Toastmasters was really important for me. And I prepared very, very neat and tidy speeches
And they were
at
yours.
Toastmasters.
They were
They were
totally
mine,
yours.
but they were very neat and tidy. And
Uh-huh.
I would not volunteer to do the impromptu speaking.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Because if I hadn't prepared, I couldn't, my mind would go blank and I would
Yes.
freeze. And so I was sharing about that with someone in NSA, and they said, oh, there's this group, speaking circles, where you don't prepare, you just show up and you absorb connection through the eyes and presence, and you just speak what comes up. And I was like, that sounds awful.
Uh-huh.
But I did it, and I
Yeah.
signed up. I did three of them in that year of
Uh,
2023, and I was a wreck,
mhm.
a an emotional wreck. I was not ready for the intensity of the connection, even though they were virtual speaking circles. The connection, the way they're set up, is really relational. And I would cry while speaking. I would end the call and I would cry, like all this pent up terror just up and
Oh.
out. And I thought, I'm not ready for this.
Uh-huh.
So then I kept on my other journey and I practiced in other ways. And 2025 was all around getting on stages. And I set a goal to speak just my journey, little more, little speak here for free, speak here for free, and learn, oh, people are actually pretty nice. Oh, it actually feels fun and good, and it's not terrifying. And then I went back to speaking circles last year.
Uh-huh.
One reason was to see if I could stay present with it and not be overwhelmed.
Uh-huh.
And another one was to prove to myself or to cannot, is it easier for me than it was 2 years ago? And so
Mhm.
what a joy. I did a full 10 sessions last year
Mhm.
and I can do it. I can do what you said. I can stay with people who have a flat look or an open look or an angry look now. And what I learned in speaking circles, I can do in person now. And I can just be, and I can be myself, and I can wait for words to come. And if they don't, it's fine. If they do, it's fine. And I'm not constantly analyzing and assessing. And here I am. Now I do professional speaking.
Yeah.
Who would have guessed?
Who would have guessed? Yeah. And it's been more recent too, is what
Mhm.
I read in the beginning is that for those of you who are listening and feel like you're way down in your life journey and you don't want to step into a big change like this, it's possible. And there are groups out there. Dory's talked about Toastmasters and speaking circles. I'm training director of speaking circles, so I invite people to go to that website and check it out. It is what Dory's talking about, a way to be a more present, embodied presence, I would say. And we call it relational presence, to be present with, but also be in relationship with a listener or a whole audience. But it's always one person at a time. And that seems to be one of the gifts that you bring now is you help people feel like you're really with them when you speak. It's not just, blanket message out there. It's really more about what we talked about in the very beginning in the bio is there's a connection there. And that's what's important to you. Because that when we if listeners, if you go back to the beginning, you'll see that there wasn't connection. Dory
Mhm.
did not understand or know how to or be taught how to connect with another human being. And that's what parents help us learn. And so she hid herself out for many years, but her power is out there now. Dory, how do people get in touch with you? What do you offer?
My message, my mission, my passion is to help people find freedom if they're stuck in their head and in fear and in blankness or just wondering, there's something more. A lot of times, if people are communicating only from their head, the heart is missing that heart piece that you talked about earlier. That is so important for me.
Mhm.
And I wasn't using my heart to communicate. And many people are not, whether they're silent or they're over talkers or, tend to dominate talking wise. A lot of time that missing piece is that heart. And so my mission is twofold. I do speaking, professional speaking in the business world. My niche is communication skills and feedback skills in within customer service
Yeah.
departments and call centers in particular. I have experience, a couple years working in a call center, and it makes such a difference really in any organization
Oh,
when managers communicate more so with heart. Yes, you need to do the head work and keep things going and do all of the processes well for a company's success. But don't neglect the heart because you're working with people on your team and you're working with customers. And that heart connection that can happen in business is so good for the bottom line. But even more important, what people experience in their work, they take home
yes.
to their partners and to their kids and to their friends. And so that's the second part of my mission is yes, I do speaking on communication skills and feedback skills to make work less miserable and to help build high trust teams that connect with the heart to some level. But what I really wanted to do is go into the family units so
Ah,
that if there are people in stuck family units like mine,
uh-huh.
silence, or maybe a family with lots of words, but they're just clanging words. They're not heartfelt, connective,
Mhm.
relational words. That maybe something I say, either from a stage or in a virtual or in Facebook or in coaching, can make a difference. And I do a little bit of coaching only if people like I don't seek out coaching clients. I send my energy out and occasionally, coaching clients come to me. I have a handful at any one time. But really, where do you follow me? It's on LinkedIn right now.
Okay. Well, so listeners, you heard what Dori just said right now, that perhaps there's something that you listened to, you heard her say today. What might that be? What little nugget or big nugget did you go, oh, yes, I could do that? Or the inspiration, and that's partly why I'm doing these podcasts, is to inspire listeners to believe that there's more for them. And today, especially because that's my work too, is around the heart. Listening from the heart helps people drop down your list. I mean, if you're listening to somebody, and this is applies, I think, to customer service, if you're listening to somebody from your heart, there's energy, and they go down into their heart too, believe it or not. And I bet if we put probes on people, we would be able to discover that how we are in
Mhm.
relationship, if we're more present, more heartful, is going to bring that out in others. And there's this quote from, I think, John Kabat-Zinn, wherever you go, there you are. And that seems to be also what you just said about your message and your mission, is being able to have people show up anywhere in life and be more of who they can be, connected, and speak from the heart.
Well said. I couldn't agree more. And I feel heart connection with you. Thank you for this space, shared space together. And we'll just see where this goes out. I hope it leads to hope and freedom, freeing people's voices. Yes.
Oh, bring people's voices. Thank you so much, Lori. So Uh, let's end right now, but before we do that, I just want to make sure that people know that they can find you on LinkedIn, and that my work, the 7-Step Guide to Fearless Speaking, I've just updated it. So who's ever listening now, who's seen it before, uh, check it out, Doreen7steps.com, Doreen7steps.com. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Doreen.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us today for this episode of Find Your Voice, Change Your Life. Each person Doreen interviews shares what has helped them find their voice. You can learn from these guests and find your voice so you can be confident to speak up and speak out. And remember to download Doreen's free 7-Step Guide to Fearless Speaking at Doreen7steps.com. We hope you enjoyed the show and will return next time. Until then, goodbye for now.